colleague who works in digital art, and it has been evolving very rapidly. So definitely I know that what digital art used to be 10 years ago is not what digital art is today. And there is this massive movement towards creating art that doesn't even neatly fall into any proper bucket. And I believe that digital art is part of that. So putting in new technologies and creating new concepts that it wasn't possible to create before, or that nobody has put together before. So the example, my closest connection to that is the electronic opera that we're creating, where the melodies are all created by a non-musician who is using my system ALYSIA, and then machinists are getting into World of Warcraft and creating visuals for it. So we're working towards a complete opera set in World of Warcraft with melodies created by a machine. I think that's part of digital media, and part of opening up what that means. How did that happen? It was really a big dose of luck. I was attending ITA, which is Information Theory and Applications workshop in San Diego. I was giving a talk about cluster analysis. So I come from a machine learning background and actually focusing on theoretical foundations of cluster analysis. And computational creativity and all of these amazing things, they weren't really part of my world. I was aware that there is art. I was aware to a very minimal degree that, some people use Photoshop, some people study digital art, but not this amazing marriage between technology and pushing the boundaries of what creativity means, together with amazing application in art. So while I was attending this workshop, ITA, there was a session in there, one session where the maker of Aaron, Harold Cohen, was the first speaker. And I was already blown away. Whoa, what happened? This guy is talking about how people are calling his system creative, but he doesn't think so. And this whole debate that he was having with himself just completely blew me away. And after that, Mark Riddell showed his storytelling system, the computer, in some sense, writing a story, which I thought was also fascinating. And then Geraint showed computer music created with a computer, and that was it. I was sold. I waited for an hour, maybe not an hour, but I waited for a while until everybody was done asking questions, and then I talked to them for a very long time. It was to Geraint and Mark, and they told me about the International Conference of Computational Creativity. So I went there over the summer, and it completely changed my perspectives. Oh, that's fascinating. I mean, the humans, if anything, in some sense, there is more roles for humans to play. Humans can now create these systems, and humans can interact with these systems. And I think it's important to me that they interact meaningfully. There's another idea called the casual creator. And there the idea is to make it very, very easy for a human to interact and really have the computer do most of the heavy lifting, but have the human feel like they're being a little bit creative. That has its place. It makes for nice games. Maybe it's nice because it also increases access to creativity. So I think it's beautiful, but it's not what I do. Co-creativity for me is the human has a very meaningful role. What the human does is not trivial. In fact, with ALYSIA, a human selecting which melodies they like and seeing how they phrase together and making up the lyrics, it's a huge part of songwriting. It's not everything anymore. So for those of us who can't compose melodies, we either don't compose melodies or we use something like ALYSIA. So it really increases access. But what the human does is very, very important and also very complicated, right? For some reason, it's easier for humans to recognize good stuff than to create good stuff. So in a way, ALYSIA leverages that. When you hear it and it sounds right, even if you're not a professional musician, you can tell. And so it's taking advantage of skills that maybe are not enormously difficult, but still call for creativity and real effort on this part of the human. Digital artist. Primarily I specialize on computational creativity. Digital art is something that I interface with, and I have colleagues in digital art. And really, all of this, at some point, it becomes a gray area. Who is a digital artist for me? I have a colleague. His name is James Morgan, and he identifies himself as a digital artist, perhaps with some caveats around it. I'm sorry, I don't recall exactly. But he's this person, he's also a conceptual artist. So maybe for me the two ideas are a little bit tied together because of that. But he uses art, he uses different mediums. He's very open, and I think it's very important to him to be open to different mediums. So he was one of the first people to use ALYSIA. He's a non-musician, but he used ALYSIA because for him that's part of what he does. He bravely goes to new technologies and figures out how you make art with them. Even if maybe some people didn't think before. I mean, I don't think anybody really thought about creating an opera set in World of Warcraft. But him as a digital artist, he has these kind of perspectives of using things to make art that maybe another person wouldn't even realize that you can make art with that. I think my strength, if I'm being completely honest, well, a few things, but the strengths that I've developed as a researcher since early years of my grad school, I had an excellent mentor for my PhD, and I learned how to see the big picture, and I learned how to come up with ideas, and how to perhaps see something that everybody else says, oh, it's impossible, oh, just do the usual thing that everybody else does, to trust myself and to go for the big ideas, to see the big possibilities. And that's, I think, that's my strength, and that's the core of the creative process, something like coming up with ALYSIA, or coming up with the next steps, the next big steps for ALYSIA. Not only the small incremental steps that we discussed during discussion today, but also, what is the next thing in music? Okay, let's say we have this amazing thing that comes up with melodies, and everything is perfect. What next? So I have ideas sort of in that direction, and it's a huge part of my creative process, and that's really my edge. That's, I think, where I stand out, I guess. But my artistic training also developed a very different kind of creativity, a creativity that's more localized, but that's immensely satisfying. I study opera, but I also study drama. I take acting. And the creative process that comes to bring a character to life, to sing a song or read a monologue or do a scene in a way that moves me and moves my audience. That's a totally different creative process, but I think is having that perspective is really helping us create ALYSIA in a way that's useful for people. Really interesting question. I think I could respond to that. From what I'm seeing, there seems to be a movement towards making art online. And that's not just in visual art. I'm also seeing that in music. More and more music is created online. That doesn't mean that the old art forms die, but they become less mainstream over time. And I think that's what we've been seeing. And I mean, I would be happy to discuss it and learn more, but that's sort of what I've been observing. There's often resistance. Some people get very upset when things that used to happen out in the real world happen on the computer. But I think the tools provided for artists on the computer are just so powerful that we are seeing a little bit more of a shift than an emergence of something separate. I think it's pretty new. I think digital art as it is understood today is a pretty new development. Definitely the things that I'm seeing from my colleagues are blowing me away, that are really surprising me, the stuff that encompassed in digital media art. So yeah, I think that's the beginning of something. And what I'm hoping to see, and you can see a little bit of evidence of that when you start looking at faculties in different departments, we're starting to see computer science educated professors, with degrees in computer science, being part of departments that have a heavy digital media bend. And that's where I think that's pretty new. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of things move to really amazing directions. What do I think? I mean, there is what I hope we will see. And there is perhaps, as a researcher, you're so deep in where you want things to go. But I hope, let me just tell you what I can respond to. I hope we will see more new forms of interaction between computers and people. Forms of interactions that weren't possible before, deeper forms of interactions where the computer, kind of going back to this idea of a computer being a collaborator, where a computer is no longer moving more and more along the spectrum towards computer collaboration than computer as a tool. But part of digital media art is about breaking boundaries, and I think for many years we're going to see lots of boundaries broken. And I can tell that with music co-creation, I hope that will be. I have a lot of vision in that because that's what I work on. That we're going to see people co-creating music with computers, making that widely accessible. People creating musical scores for movies very easily using the computer. So really, in a way, making things faster and easier, but also just new and different and stuff that we didn't think about before. So I think the collaborations are going to change both in depth. The collaborations with the computer are going to become deeper, but also wider. I think a lot of amazingly talented people are exploring things like having an opera in a video game. That's things that just haven't occurred before. I think we are going to see, because it's some research that I heard about, video game characters having expressive faces that express emotion. And I think it's going to be, this whole embedding emotion deeper inside of media art. I think we are seeing hints of that. And that's going to be really fascinating to see computers, in some sense, express emotion, but definitely help us connect on an emotional level with whatever form of art we're seeing. I am very impressed with what you have here, very sincerely. I think the interdisciplinary nature of the way the school is organized, the fact that you have computing students working side by side with digital media art students, that's the future. That's the way to do things. So I'm very, very impressed with what's happening here. England has actually the UK has a lot of focus on computational creativity. It's really amazing. They have you have Raphael here, who is right now heading the Computational Creativity Association. So this is so fortunate, I think. In the UK also, they have quite a few main universities that have some big players in computational creativity spread across multiple universities, which is great, right? Creates this really good environment for collaboration. In Canada, there's a university, York University, where they have a really vibrant digital media art. Sorry, I don't remember if that's exactly what they call it, but that's that kind of program where art and technology get combined very explicitly. And they have, of course, their computing departments. And they're also kind of very interested in this sort of collaboration. So I've seen this stuff in Canada. University of Alberta has some very talented researchers also working on that intersection. In the US as well, we have UC Santa Cruz, which have a digital media department with some really, really amazing researchers. Stanford has Karma, which focuses on music. There's some stuff happening at Yale. It's really quite a bit. And it's not everywhere. And I don't think in any of these countries it's everywhere. So in a very real way, we are seeing this amazing progress in different countries. And it'd be really nice to spread it. And so to have any computer science student or any digital media student aware of this stuff, aware of computational creativity, aware of this amazing stuff that's happening. And that would really help push the field forward. I think, especially some of the people that I've been talking to don't want their art to be used in the same way that, we hang up art on walls. This one really, really talented woman created a wall of songs. I should definitely give you the name afterwards. So it's basically recorded a whole bunch of people singing and blended their faces and the sound of them singing this one song. And the way that she sometimes displays the art in the installations, and that's how she likes it. That's the medium through which she wants to communicate it. And there were other artists who sort of emphasized for me the return to experiencing art in the moment, the same way that we experience live theater or a concert. That it's not something that they even necessarily want somebody to be able to put in their pocket and use whenever they want. Art as a live experience. I think that's fascinating. So I think digital media artists are also kind of intentionally breaking the model of how art is supposed to be consumed. Other than ALYSIA, the thing that helps create melodies, oh my God, where do I even start? We have Mabel that you can type, that's currently in research mode, where you can type lyrics and it helps you create helps you expand your lyrics. So that's kind of the current project. Within a few months, maybe within about 3 months, I hope to have a good prototype that I could share with some people. But definitely ALYSIA has been a very big focus, and expanding ALYSIA and giving it more capabilities, making it easy for people to create songs in a very complete sense of the word. I also have some work using biofeedback devices. So we're working with the Muse to try to use your biofeedback data in order to help you reach desired mental states. So kind of a different angle. And there you use art as well, because the way you give the feedback, if it's artistic, if it's pleasing, we believe that would have a more positive impact on the user.